ABC Listen. Podcasts, radio, news, music and more.
When you see your son run onto the football field and within 5 minutes he's on a stretcher being carried off, shaking and convulsing, and it's pretty upsetting.
That's the late Adam Hunter's stepdad, Rod Brown, talking about what it was like watching the Premiership Eagle play footy after he retired from the top level. Brutal, isn't it? Hunter passed away earlier this year and his family donated his brain to the brain bank to be studied, and the results have come back. He had CTE, but his family say it may not have been his time at the top level that caused the most damage. It's what happened when he returned to local footy, and Hunter's experience isn't a unique one. Plus a final shaping weekend in the NRL, Zach Bailey talks us through resting and the run home. I'm Poppy Penny and this is ABC Sport Daily. Premiership Eagle Adam Hunter passed away earlier this year and his family donated his brain to be tested for CTE. The results have come back and it confirmed what they and Hunter himself suspected. Bridget MacArthur is an ABC reporter based in WA. Bridget, fans would know Hunter from his 10 years and 151 games at West Coast. Can you tell me a bit about his career and how it might have resulted in these findings?
Hey, Poppy. Yeah, well, when you say people know Adam Hunter in Western Australia, I mean, it really is a football bubble, and that Eagles 2006 grand final is fondly remembered, and the 43-year-old Adam Hunter played a really important role in that game. So a shoulder injury, as well as some ongoing knee issues, basically forced him to be medically retired in 2009. It was a really difficult time for him. Speaking to his parents, he really didn't want to retire then. People noted, several head knocks throughout his career in the AFL alone, but he just loved football so much. Speaking to his parents, that was evident.
Yeah, he should have retired, but he just loved the game that much. He just wanted to play. Every game was his last game.
He went on to play with a number of other lower level leagues. So really, ultimately, he ended up playing from a kid right up until 43. Literally the day before he died, he was at football training. So he was playing for a really substantial number of years. And speaking to Professor Mike Buckland from the Australian Sports Brain Bank, the risk of CTE really correlates more with the number of years that you have played and the repeated head knocks over that length of time, as opposed to, the number of severe concussions. And how it led to him ultimately getting posthumously diagnosed, it can't be diagnosed during life, was that he did mention to his parents a number of times, particularly in the later years, that he thought he might have CTE, which, brings with it a lot of symptoms like mental health issues, mood swings. It can be associated with substance use disorders. When he did die in February earlier this year, his parents decided to donate his brain to the brain bank, and they've just recently got those results back.
So he passed away earlier this year. What were sort of the triggers for his family to make the decision to donate his brain, and what might that mean for concussion and research into CTE?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, Hunter died in February, and early coronial findings have suggested that he died from methamphetamine-related heart failure. And we do know that he did struggle with substance abuse on and off during his life. But because of those concerns of CTE that he'd mentioned to his parents in the final years, they decided very quickly after he died to donate his brain to see whether those fears were sort of substantiated. And that has now come back confirming that there were several lesions consistent with stage 2 CTE, and also some evidence of this new subtype of CTE called cortical sparing CTE, which can actually have some more high stage impacts, more associated with the mental health side of things rather than the sort of memory loss side of things, particularly in younger patients. And that is a really new subtype that has just been discovered in the last couple of years. So speaking to Professor Michael Buckland, he said the donation of former players' brains like Adam's are really important to progressing. So yeah, it's still really early stages in understanding the disease, and they're hopeful that potentially in the next decade or two even, they might be able to actually diagnose it during life. They're working to basically understand what biomarkers are associated with it. And that will make a huge difference, really, just to giving players some peace and some understanding during life and being able to to potentially treat it, because there are some treatments to the symptoms of CTE, although there's still not a cure, and that could still be a while off.
Hunter retired in 2009, but as you mentioned, he kept playing footy till the day that he died, quite literally. How did things play out for Hunter on the footy field when he wasn't playing AFL, when he was playing local footy in the southwest of WA?
Yeah, well, this is sort of the reason that I originally started speaking to his parents, because at his funeral, which I attended in February, one of his friends mentioned that he copped a fair bit of abuse in the Southwest Football League, and particularly verbal abuse, but also, kind of getting targeted from opposition players.
He was always targeted. I think it's a bit of a tall poppy syndrome. You get that person that just wants to say that, I punched Adam Hunter.
It was really just adding to the number of head knocks, the number of concussions that he was getting over the course of his life. And Rod, as his stepdad, felt that he got disproportionately targeted on the field.
He's not the only player who's struggled with that sort of treatment in retirement. This isn't a unique experience for Adam Hunter, and you've spoken to other former AFL players who have had similar problems when they leave the top level and they still want to play footy, so they play for a local club or a lower league. Can you talk us through sort of who you've spoken to and what some of those challenges have been?
Yeah, so I've spoken to Jason Cloke recently. So he's a former Collingwood player. He was king hit or coward punched during a Masters game in Queensland off play, and that sent him to hospital.
Local footy down there in Melbourne would have had easy a good dozen concussions. Well, I can tell you, for instance, my brother Cameron, he's probably had good 20 to 30.
He feels like the AFL is cracking down on that sort of thing in terms of on-field abuse and also in terms of fan abuse, but that the local leagues he sort of described as being a bit more of a Wild West, and that, he's copped it from all directions. He says even umpires.
You got a lot of umpires even will go out of their way and pretty much tell you, I'm not giving a free kick to you. I can't stand you. I can't stand your family.
And it's actually led to Jason deciding to step down this year and not play footy. It's the first time he's not played any sort of footy since he was about 12.
But hell, you go past the footy field and first thing you think of is getting king hit. It has absolutely been a nightmare. Dealing with it, you don't have the support of, like I said, the team anymore. When you're not playing the game or training and thinking of other things, all you're thinking about is, I'd love to be playing, but then on the other hand, you're like, well, I don't want to get king hit again.
When the sport you love is kind of taken away from you as well, or it's made really difficult for you because you're getting targeted on field, it's quite a difficult thing to deal with.
At least the AFL and different things now are making a harder stand, and hopefully it slowly comes down to local football where they do take a harder stand. Look, I saw not long ago a kid in local football king hit someone and straight away the league gave him a life ban. That's how it should be.
I did speak to the Queensland Masters League, who said that they were aware of former AFL players getting disproportionately targeted, and they were trying to crack down on aggression across the board. And similarly, the Southwest Football League said that they're really keen to attract former AFL players. They can be great for marketing, they can be great for skills sharing, and so they are doing their best to crack down on aggression.
For more on this, you can find Bridget MacArthur's piece on the ABC Sport website, and in there you can find more information about the Brain Bank doing this research. Bridget, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Poppy.
Bridget also spoke to the AFL, who said they've made several rule changes to reduce the amount of avoidable forceful high contact. They've also committed $25 million over 10 years to research the game's impact on brain health to inform policies at all levels of the game. In the A-Leagues, a late bid to save Western United has not been enough, with news coming today that the club has been wound up. They've been battling financial issues for many months, including an ATO debt of over $13 million and owing $2.5 million to other creditors. After a buyout from US investors was withdrawn at the last minute, creditors Johnson Controls submitted an affidavit to the court stating they would provide the funds, but the federal court ultimately refused. The men's team made it to the semi-final in the 2024-25 season and won the comp in 2022. The women's team made it to elimination finals in both the last two seasons. Zach Bailey is an NRL reporter with Channel 9 and he's here to get us up to speed with round 26 of the Rugby League. Zach, last night would have been a commentator's nightmare because Penrith rested 16 players from its regular starting squad. They've come to terms with the fact that they won't be top 4. Do you think the mass resting will pay off for the Panthers?
Well, I guess we'll find out in about 5 weeks probably because obviously we'll see whether the Penrith Panthers are still alive late in the finals for their charge towards a 5th straight premiership, which is unbelievable to think of. The way that they have had to fight back from last in the competition in round 12 to 14 weeks later finding themselves secure in the top 8. Ivan Cleary has rested players before, but that's normally when they've been second or first and wrapping up the minor premiership. But he said earlier this week before that game that they're going to have to do everything they can, given the toll of winning 10 straight matches and, having tough games in the last couple of weeks, Golden Point losses. He's doing everything he can, and this is the week that they earmarked to rest those key players. And you know what? I think he's going to pay off in a way. I think they're going to get into the finals a little bit fresher. It can't hurt, really, given their top 4 aspirations were basically squashed before this weekend. The last time that the Bulldogs and Panthers played earlier this year, the Panthers won an absolute dogfight, and Nathan Cleary still says to this day that was the toughest game they've played all year. So I think Penrith was smart going, we don't want our players getting bashed up 2 weeks out from the finals. Let's go in primed for the finals.
Ivan Cleary is a master coach, so I feel like you don't question his logic. The other master coach is also resting a bunch of players, with Craig Bellamy resting 4, and there's no Harry Grant for the Storm as they take on the Roosters tonight. They sit second. They're poised to host a home final. But for the Roosters, they need to hang on to 8th spot. Is this their best chance to beat Melbourne?
Well, this is the interesting debate about resting players. It's not so much the games that the teams are involved in. It's also the ripple effect. They would be very happy to know that some of the key Storm players who have been in really good form this year and seeing Harry Grant suspended for 2 weeks, they will be really happy going into this match knowing that those players aren't playing. With basically a win tonight over the Storm would really, really boost the Roosters' chance. They'll have one foot into the finals heading into that match against their arch rivals, the Rabbitohs. The thing that's against them, it's Craig Bellamy, the Storm's coach, 600th game of coaching Melbourne. They love a milestone. They generally get up for a milestone. They've still got a heap of class in their lineup. And the Roosters don't have a great record down in Melbourne, especially at this time of year in big games. The last couple of years they've been heartbroken in semi-finals down there. No doubt that's weighing on their mind as well. So it's a huge clash. I don't think those players rested for the Storm means it's an automatic Roosters win, but it definitely helps their cause.
They're hoping to hang on to 8th spot, and the 2 teams who are hot on their heels are the Dolphins and Manly. The Finns take on the Titans and the Sea Eagles have the Dragons. Which of those 2, the Finns and the Sea Eagles, do you think could make the jump into the 8 and have an impact in finals?
Well, firstly, both of those teams, but especially Manly, they really need the Roosters to lose both of their games. So they'll both be sitting down, as much as they say they're focused on themselves. Both of those clubs will be sitting down watching tonight's match, thinking and hoping and praying that the Storm get the job done so that then they're clear to survive for at least another week. You'd say this week, the Dolphins against the Titans, the Dolphins should win that. But next week, they've got the Raiders, which is a really tough task. Again, back to the resting debate, the Raiders might rest half of their squad leading to week 1 of the finals. So that's going to be an intriguing scenario. As for Manly, they take on the Dragons. The former assistant coach, Shane Flanagan, is coach of the Dragons. He will want to be plotting Manly's demise to ensure that the club that he was an assistant at a couple of years ago doesn't make the finals. Manly's record at Cogra isn't good. They haven't won there since 2014. I think they've only won 2 of their last 9 there as well. So in terms of this week, the task is tougher for Manly against the Dragons. The expectation at the start of the year, Manly should be playing finals footy. So in terms of what's on the line, you'd like to think that Manly, if they get the job done this week and the Roosters lose, maybe the Dolphins win, it all comes down to the last round, which like the AFL, in the final round, is what every fan wants, probably apart from the teams that are involved, because then it gets a little bit stressful. But it's a cracking weekend of footy this week.
There are so many little subplots going on at the moment with only 2 rounds left in their home and away season. Zach Bailey, enjoy the footy this weekend. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks for having me. Cannot wait. Bring it on.
Sadly, no time for sound bites this week. Too much to talk about. I'm Poppy Penny, and this has been ABC Sport Daily.
Discover more great ABC podcasts, live radio and exclusives on the ABC Listen app.